if you need to rewatch it at any time, you can. Yeah, and so let's jump in. So as Jeff was saying yesterday, when you guys were getting a sneak peek at the product, when you log in, the first thing that you see is this membership dashboard area. Now, this area is comprised of a couple of different just kind of like snapshots of information. So anything that we're about to review on this page, you'll be able to dive in deeper in different areas of the system. But this is just to give you a quick snapshot of what is going on in the system. So we've got your current membership rosters, and we're going to talk about some new verbiage today as well that you probably aren't accustomed to, but we'll go through some of those words. And if I say something that it didn't register or you're not quite sure what it means, just holler and let me know, and I never mind you interrupting me. So one word that might be new to you is member types. So a member type is going to be what kind of describes the member categories. Different member types are typically created based on a member's membership period and dues amount that they pay. So for example, if I'm a member and Jeff's a member and I'm paying $30 and he's paying $50, we wouldn't be the same member type. We would be put in two different member types because the system's going to say, okay, he's paying 50, she's paying 30. Maybe one is going to be silver, maybe I'm silver and maybe he's gold. And so he's paying a different dues amount, so he would need to be a different member type category. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How many member types are there?
So right now we have individual, we also have retired, and then student. So we can see that by looking at the current membership rosters. Now, in addition to those three that we've created, there's a built-in member type admin. That's what you would be.
Okay.
And then there's also a built-in non-member member type, which is a little confusing, but that's prospect. Prospect's going to hold anybody that's not paying dues, but maybe they used to be a member and now they're lapsed and you want to keep them in there to see if they ever want to rejoin, or people who sign up for events are going to fall into this prospect category. It's kind of just a catch-all for anybody's contact info that you might want to have that's not an actual member.
Okay.
So Adrian, just also to answer Sadina's question, so I think you can have as many member types as you want. I don't know that there's a limit there, but for Roth Williams, we have individual, retired, and student.
Okay.
So those are our three member types for that particular organization.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And it varies with the other one?
Yeah, every group has its own member types.
Okay. All right. Sorry,
Yep,
Adrian,
that's exactly right. No, you're perfect. That's exactly right. You can technically have as many as you want. You guys just have three right now.
Okay.
Now, there are three statuses that these members can be a part of. They could be an active member, which means that they've paid their dues. They're up to date. That's kind of all there is to it. If they've passed their expiration date and they have still not paid their dues, then they would fall into what we call grace period. It's kind of like, okay, you haven't paid, but you've got a little bit more leeway. It's fine. We'll give you a little bit more time to hang out in the system. So when their members are in the active or grace period, they can log into the system. They can access their member profile. They can access any of the member resources. So even in the grace period, it doesn't feel like anything's changed to the member. Now, if they still haven't paid their dues amount when they're in the grace period, when the grace period ends, and the grace period can be any length of time that you guys want it to be. I can't recall. I think it's 30 days right now, but we could change that, and I might be wrong on that period of time. But after the grace period, they're going to become a lapsed member. Now, to you guys, they're going to look the same. They're still going to have their profile. They're just going to be in this kind of lapsed column. So instead of seeing a number count for them in the active column, you would see that number count in the lapsed column. Nothing's really changing for you guys. They'll never be automatically deleted or moved to prospect or anything like that. The only thing that changes is for the member experience. So at that time, the member can no longer log into the member resource center, their profile. They can no longer be a part of the social community, which we'll talk about later. And they wouldn't be able to take advantage of any member type pricing that could be available.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
No. And what's the grace period right now?
So for them, it's like 30 days, like 90 days.
90, okay.
Yeah. But I think
Okay,
we're
so it's 90 days.
adjusting it slightly because we're going to be launching this after the first of the year.
Okay,
So,
okay,
so they'll have to like March 31st to pay something.
okay.
Does that sound right, Adrian?
Yeah, that does sound right now that you say it, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Now, to the right of this, we have the new members in the last 90 days. So the only difference between the current membership roster and new members in the last 90 days is that this is also going to give them a number over here in this this area, just so you're knowing who those new members are and you guys can communicate with them frequently and quickly once they've become a member, reiterating the membership benefits they're gaining by being a part of your association. So it kind of helps you make sure you're not giving them enough attention so that they don't join and then they never hear anything again, right? It's a place where you could say, okay, 5 people have joined in the last 90 days. We need to make sure we're sending them, maybe even more emails, letting them know what they could gain from being a part of our association. Something that we talk a lot about internally in our company is, in fact, the question I've been getting a lot is, a lot of people are part of Amazon Prime. And if you ask somebody, okay, what benefits are you getting by being a part of Amazon Prime? You might be able to list like 3 or 4, but there are like over 20. There's tons of benefits. And so that's one thing that helps with member retention, is making sure that your members know what they're gaining by being with you, so that they don't, go, well, I'm paying this every month or paying this every year, and I really don't know what I'm getting. What am I really benefiting from this? That's just a great area to make sure that you're letting those individuals know what they're getting. Any questions on anything that we've talked about so far?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, awesome. Then the next area is going to be our event dashboards. So we've got our past event attendance, upcoming event attendance, our upcoming expected event attendance. So this is going to pull from event registration forms. There's a lot of different pieces to MemberClicks. Something we're going to talk about, not today, but tomorrow, is forms. Forms are going to be what we use to build your membership application. If you guys have an event that your members need to register for, they'll do that through a form. All these different you can really use it to anything that you would need to gain information from your members with, you would use a form. So when it comes to events, up to 3 of your event registration forms that have passed will show up in this past event attendance, and then the ones that are upcoming, so in the future, up to 3 will show up for those events that are upcoming. It's going to show the event name, the date, and either how many people attended or how many people have registered so far. So once again, we can look at forms in more detail. This is just a quick view of how your events, what your attendance looks like for your events.
Okay.
The last part of our financial dashboards, or the last part is going to be our financial dashboards. So we have aged receivables and sales over time. Aged receivables is going to show you how many outstanding invoices you have by how much money. Sales over time will allow you to sort by revenue account to see how much money was brought in per month per revenue account. So that's the only thing that these are tracking. It's, once again, if you really need to look at the financials, this is not what you would look at. This is just to take a quick glance to see what's going on in the system. But really, we're going to talk about financials today.
Okay.
We're going to probably do a little bit of an overview, just so you understand how to find invoices, make offline payments, or even online payments if you needed to, and how to search for invoices, resend invoices. Basic information like that we'll definitely go through today. So these are probably not going to mean as much to you. Jeff, are you guys going to have a separate financial person that you work with on this?
Not quite yet. Yeah,
okay.
So it's going to be us internally.
Okay. But yeah, so this is just a snapshot on financials.
I have a question about the event. So for events, do members register through MemberClicks?
That's exactly right.
Well, okay. Okay. All right.
So just real quick. So this Adrienne, this is her second day, and I probably should have spent a little bit more time talking specifics about Roth Williams. So, but Roth Williams is having a conference in May. So along with the membership stuff, everything that we do is going to be, they're going to do registration and everything through MemberClicks.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
You know, same thing for the target group as well. We're going to set up the registration form for the conference, and they'll register through MemberClicks, and they'll ideally they'll pay for Roth Williams. They'll pay for the book. You know, if they want to buy a book, they're going to do that through MemberClicks.
Oh, okay.
They'll register. They'll do their membership. Everything is going to be through this one portal.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Adrienne, sorry about that.
No, not a problem. It's great for you to kind of see how this is going to relate to you guys specifically as we walk through this. So that's awesome. All right. Now that is everything on the membership dashboard area, or on this kind of homepage area. Any additional questions before we keep moving?
No.
Okay, awesome. So the next thing that we're going to glance at is your account settings. So to do that, I'm going to go to Settings and Account Settings. Now, as a general admin, I don't think that this is a tab you can see. Jeff may want to make you an ASA. So we've got two different types of admins in our system. One is called an ASA. I like to refer to that as a super admin. You basically trump any settings in the system, and you can see anything no matter what. Then we have just a general admin. A general admin, the ASA can set some specific permissions for a general admin if they want to limit what they can see or do. And then you wouldn't be able to see things like the account settings tab. Now, another big difference, and Jeff, you might want to think about this as well. ASA, that super admin, you can call into the help team once you've graduated and ask the help team questions or submit emails to the help team. As a general admin, you do not have the ability to do that. A big reason is because what happens is there are like 10 board members, and if all 10 board members are admins, they all call in and they all want to make these drastic changes in the system, but none of them are technically approved. So what happens is there's tons of back and forth. The system gets super messy because everybody has their own opinion versus it being one person saying, this is how it's going to be, this is how we're setting it up, this is what we're going to do, basically. So that's why we limit it. You can only have 2 ASAs, and Jeff, this is more FYI for you. You can only have 2 ASAs on your account. Once again, to just keep from having 10 people calling into the help team anytime they want to call in. So we might want to make Sedina an ASA, but that's totally up to you. You might want to think about it.
I do want to make her an ASA.
Okay, awesome. So we can do that on our call today. So you'll be able to see this account settings tab then. So we'll just go to settings and account settings. When you call into the help team, and we'll talk about this way later on, but when you're ready to call into the help team, they're going to ask you for your account number.
Okay.
You don't have to write it down or memorize it. It's always going to be under this account settings tab for you.
Okay.
Now, with MemberClicks, you guys purchase a level. A level, we just have different levels. If you guys have level 1, which means you can have up to 300 custom profiles. Custom profiles means being a part of any of those member types, those paying member types. You have a different amount allotted for your prospects. So you can have a different amount of prospects in the system. Since you guys are level 1, you can have up to 300 custom profiles and up to 900 prospective profiles. Now, you guys have already gone a little bit above that, so that's something Jeff and I will probably talk about right when we're ready to launch. But right now, since you're in the onboarding process, it's fine that you're over on these numbers.
Okay.
We have your time zone, Pacific time, your members' membership year, member number. This is more of a system attribute. We're going to talk about attributes in just a second. I think you guys will be using QuickBooks if you don't already, so I have your QuickBooks toggled on. That's just to help with financial organization. And I think okay, so then this email right here that you're looking at, MemberClicks will be sending emails to the members. And when somebody receives one of those emails, they need a reply to email. So if somebody's like, hey, I've got questions about this email, it needs to go to a place. It can't just come back to MemberClicks. So we're going to eventually put in some type of email. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff was going to create like an admin at rothwilliams.com or something like that.
Yeah, we have an info at rwiso.org.
Did I spell that RWISO?
That's it.
Okay, we'll put that in. And then lastly, we've just got billing contact info for us to have on file. And that's everything. So you'll really not be coming to that account settings tab very often. I think it's really just useful for when you either need to check to see where you're at with the level that you have. So how many custom profiles you've used versus prospect profiles. And then also a great place to find that account number when you call into the help team and they ask you for your account number. You're not like, oh, I don't know. You can always find it in the system.
All right.
Any questions on anything that we just talked about?
There was a little, I think it said crons, if I'm not mistaken, on the bottom of the settings page.
Yes, so that was something internal to me that you will not be able to see on your end, which is why I didn't talk about it.
Okay.
And basically what that means is, just so you know, if we're ready to send out, when we're ready to send out dues renewal notifications, I have the ability to force them out in the system. So typically what happens is we would turn on notifications, which we're going to talk about today. When we turn on the notifications, we're telling the system, let's go talk a little bit about your member types right now. I'm going to go to database. And we're going to go to the member types tab. Now, in our system, I'm trying to think of the best way for you to digest some of this. In our system, I talked about how we have member types, right? And so I mentioned that member types really determine how much your members are going to pay in dues and the length of their membership period. So I gave you an example. If I was paying $30 and Jeff was paying $50, we would be in two different member types. Another example would be if I was anniversary. So if I was in a member type where I could join at any time, and whenever I joined 1 year from that date would be my new expiration date, that would be called an anniversary member type. And then Jeff may have another member type that he's in, and it's actually fiscal, meaning that if he joined today, his expiration date would be December 31st of 2018. It'll always roll to December 31st, 2018, or February 28th, or whatever. It's a specific date, so it's a set period no matter when you join. So you would have different member types for either of those scenarios, different member dues amounts, different lengths of membership periods. Anytime we create a member type in the system, a mirror image of that member type is created, and it's called a group. So that's what you see here, groups. Groups determine permissions in the system. So if I'm in the individual member type, I'm also in the individual group. By default, I always will be. I can't take myself out of the individual group. I have to be in the same group of the member type that I'm in. And so we're going to use those groups to determine permissions. We're going to talk a lot about this, and it's a pretty big theme throughout the product. So if it feels confusing now, you'll get it by the time we get done together. The reason we have member types and groups, these are two different things for a very specific reason. I can only be in one member type at any given time. So I wouldn't be able to be in an individual member type and a student member type. I wouldn't be able to be an admin member type and an individual member type, because that means I have two profiles and I have two logins, two sets of information I have to update. It becomes a real pain in the butt. I can only be one member type at any given time. I can, however, be multiple groups at any given time. So the way that this is used most commonly is if Roth Williams had a board of directors and they said, Sadina, Jeff, I want to get in here and we just want to look at the site. We want full access to it. We want to see it. And you guys are going to go, holy crap, they're going to come in here and mess up everything because they're not going to know what they're doing. They're going to press a ton of buttons and it's going to be bad. So you can give them their member type. They could be in an individual member type, retired member type, student member type, or even a board member type. But you can give them, we can create a new group, maybe called board. And that board member type can give them specific permissions on the front end and the back end. So we could give them specific administrative permissions that they can use, or give them maybe some additional information they could see on the front end. There's a lot of different ways we can use that. Does that kind of theme make sense?
It does. Are you able to click on groups so I can see what it looks like?
Yes. It's just going to list out.
Oh, okay.
So we can't delete any of these, right? Because these are all member types. And anytime we have a member type, there's an equal group. We can't add a new group. We could call it board. Does that make sense at all?
Yes, and then you would add individuals to that group you just created, board, and then once you do that, you grant them certain permissions?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, makes sense.
I'll leave this board group here as an example, and when we look at the members' profiles, I'll show you how we can add individuals, we can add members to different groups.
Okay.
So those are groups. We also talked about member types. So we looked at groups. Let's go ahead and look at member types.
Okay.
Now, member types is where we would create new member types. If you guys or if Roth Williams decided, okay, well, we also need a gold individual member type because they're going to get more. They're going to pay more. We would be able to come to database member types and create a new member type. Now, we have two different types of member types our system can hold. We can hold an individual member type, which means that I'm your member. When it's time for me to pay dues, you guys send me my dues, my invoice that I'll pay. So I'm just an individual. The other example of a member type we can hold is organizational. You guys don't have any organizational member types at this time. Down the road, Roth Williams might decide to add one. What that means is that I'm not the member. MemberClicks, my company, is the member. And I am linked to my company. So MemberClicks pays my dues invoice. And anybody linked to MemberClicks benefits from that. Does it make sense?
Okay. Yes.
Awesome. So right now you guys just have individual member types. If you ever want to add a new member type, I would highly suggest, even if you feel like you can do it, I would highly suggest calling our help team, or if you guys are still with me, calling me, and we would go through that process together. I would never ask for you to create a new member type by yourself.
Okay.
Just real quick, so we might do that with Target Group, because right now they don't have any members, it's all just prospects. So that might be one where we would, call in and have them walk through it.
Okay, and as of right now, Adrian's the main point of contact, or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Adrian.
No, you're totally fine. I was going to mention something else in regards to this. What was it? I don't remember. Yeah, when you guys get ready to do that, though, just holler at me, and we can do that together. It's just nice to have. It's kind of a nerve-wracking thing. We're going to go ahead and look at what these member types mean, like what they determine, so that you'll kind of be able to tell exactly what these settings are doing in the system. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go ahead and select Edit Settings for the individual member type. Now, some of this stuff is really basic information that you would expect to see in here. So like the name of the member type is individual. This is another great place. If Roth Williams said, I don't want to call them individuals anymore. Instead, we want to call them Roth Williams member type 1, or, I don't know, anything. You can just change that member type name right here, and it's going to reflect everywhere in the system. So you don't have to go into a bunch of different places to change it. You can just do it in this one place, which I think is really great.
So I just have a quick question. So you mentioned if we want to create a new member type, we would contact MemberClicks. So what if we want to make edits? I'm not sure if you make edits often, Jeff, but if we, no, okay, so that's not really something, but if we needed to contact MemberClicks, or do we just do it?
It depends on what the edit is. So the only edits that you can make in the member types, we'll go through what can be changed in here, and you can do any of this. You could even create a new member type if you wanted. I would just recommend calling us, but making a change you guys could do. So the next item that we have is a toggle to require approval for new members. You guys do not need to do this. The only time that you would ever need this is if there's like some really big approval process that somebody has to go through before they can become a member. So this a lot of times is used for state associations or medical associations. I see it lawyer or attorney type associations where they can't be a member unless they meet A, B, and C criteria. And so they would make it pending, so nobody could just join willy-nilly and boom, they're a member. They would have to apply, and then they'd have to go through an approval process before they would have access to any member resources. That doesn't sound like either of y'all's associations. It sounds like if somebody joins, they can just become a member and it's okay. You want their membership. Am I right in saying that, Jeff?
Yes, except I think we might turn that on, because in order to be a member of Roth Williams, you have to have gone through a training.
Okay, so then we might want to turn this on for all member types or just individual?
No, just individual.
I'll show you how that affects. I'll show you how this affects the system. The next item is custom attributes. So we're going to talk about the attributes in just a minute. Attributes is another word that you're going to hear all over the system all the time. And so an attribute is a piece of information that helps describe your members. My name is Adrienne, my name being an attribute of who I am. For your individual members, one of the questions that you may need to ask on the membership application is, have you completed your specific training that you need for this, for your certification or whatever it may be? That attribute applies to individual members. It does not apply to student or retired members. So we would want to assign that custom attribute to this member, but not to the other member types. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Landing page. When your members log in, they go to a member landing page. We'll look at that tomorrow. It's just where they're directed, basically, and they'll always all be the same member landing page. Renewal payment settings. So invoice templates we're going to talk about in just a bit. The payment processor, we want to use Moolah. What revenue account do we want the money to go into? We would set up things like this. We would also, are you guys still there? I think I lost you. Hey, are you guys still there?
Yes. Hi, Adrienne. Sorry about that.
You are totally fine.
Disconnected us. Sorry.
No problem. Okay, so then we are going to talk about membership and expiration. So right now, Roth Williams is on a date-based or fiscal-based expiration date. So what that means is that if I join today, I'm always going to go back to having a December 31st expiration date. It doesn't matter when I joined.
Okay.
The grace period is 3 months. You guys are not doing auto renew, so this needs to be off. And then the last item is pricing. So right now, your members, the individual member type, pay $150 for 1 year of membership or
It's actually just going to be $250, I think.
Oh.
There we go.
So if you guys need to change pricing, you don't need to call us to do that. It's super easy for you to just update that here. If your membership needs to be anniversary instead of date-based, we would have to make that, we would need to make that change for you.
Okay.
If you wanted to change the grace period, you guys could do that. If you needed to change any of the payment settings or anything basically in here that needed to be edited, you guys could do, except for the what the expiration is based on. Any questions on any of this?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, awesome. Now, aside from, and I think I still need to add your notifications, but aside from account or member type settings, there's also notifications. Yeah, I need to add these. So there's a lot of notifications that will come out of MemberClicks. One of those notifications is specific to dues renewals. So this is where I'm going to set up all of the notifications that Jeff sent to me, the verbiage. So this is going to be the email your member receives when it's time for them to pay their dues renewal amount. Before we launch, I'm going to have you guys jump in here, very last thing we do, and just double check and make sure these look the way they need to be. And I believe I have this document to add. So I'll just add it in and then you guys will review it.
Okay.
Does that make sense, what these notifications are used for?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, so this is member type settings or member types. Now, I mentioned a moment ago attributes. And I mentioned that attributes are what we use in the system to help describe your members. Sometimes I hear associations refer to these as demographics or tags, fields. We call them attributes. The attributes that we have in our system are broken up into 3 different categories. We have built-in attributes, so that's what you see on my screen here. A built-in attribute is basically the items, the pieces of information we've seen across the 1,800 plus associations we've worked with that we know you guys collect on your members. First name, last name, physical address, email address, phone number, organization. Yeah, so that would be these items here.
Okay, and
Second,
then there's, is the required tab to the right, is that ever utilized? That will give them like a little star, right? Like they can't submit the form without.
The reason we don't want to use this here is because with the information that I have right now, there are some fields that we're missing. And if so let's say I'm a member with you guys and we make all these required, but I don't have an email address. But I called you and you were able to collect, or you were able to go back and find a ton of information on me, or you're adding notes in my profile because you had a conversation, whatever it is. You're adding all these notes and then you hit the save button and it goes, I can't save any of this that you just created because we're missing required fields. That is the biggest pain in the butt because you've spent maybe 15 or 10 minutes updating somebody's profile and now you've lost all those changes because you're missing a field that's required. So we don't want to make these required at this level. You can make it required on the form level, which we'll talk about tomorrow.
Okay.
And that means they couldn't complete the form unless that information is filled out. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions on built-in attributes?
No. If you can just click into one of the edit settings.
Yeah, so these are all that was going to be my next thing.
Okay.
These are all a little bit different. That's perfect. It's a perfect segue. So we can't get rid of built-in attributes. They're always going to be here, but we can manipulate them. So what that means is if we look at the edit settings for the name field, you guys, as of right now, are not, well, this is not true. You guys have collected prefixes, middle names, and suffixes, but they were not broken apart when we received the database. So that was really hard for Jeff and I because, let's see if I can find an example. That's not going to work. There's not really, yeah. So the reason I couldn't break these apart is because some only have 2 names, some have 3, some have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some of these names have a lot of parts to them. And so what I've done for right now is I've put the entire name in the first name category and then in the contact name. So we can still search by them in the system, but if I select edit for this, you'll notice there's nothing in this last name. I couldn't break apart what was supposed to be in the last name, what was supposed to be in the first name. So technically, for your attributes for this name, we should turn on prefix, middle, and suffix because you guys are collecting these. They're just not able to be put in those fields. But as your members edit their profiles and as you guys are in the system, you may see them as you go along and just update it. So now when I go into that individual's profile and I hit edit, now you've got a prefix, a first name, a middle name, a last name, and a suffix. So now we could actually probably, in this example, Moreno kind of looks like it might be the middle name. And then this kind of looks like it would be the last name. I honestly am not really sure. Does that look right to you, Jeff?
Yeah, it's one of the challenges we've got. Yeah, it's just one of the challenges we have with the South Americans.
I tried to go through here and separate these, but I was in over my head. And then there's a doctor too, so I could give him so what we could do is go back into the attributes, back into the name, and add an option here, doctor.
Okay.
And then
save.
Actually add one for me?
Yes, sir.
DRA, period.
What is the difference between, I didn't know if doctor and DRA period I didn't know if that might have been the equivalent for doctor in a different language.
In the U.S., it's can be used for male and female. In South America, it's the equivalent of a female doctor.
Oh, it's
Yeah. So the male doctors will use DR, the female doctors will say DRA.
Got it.
Yeah.
So now what we could do is go back into, and I think I typed in MO. It was Gonzalez. It was GON.
Is that only South America, Jeff?
I think maybe Spain as well also does that. That one I'm not positive about, but definitely the South Americans, Chile and Brazil, I see that a lot.
All right, so let's go back in attributes. So some other things that we can do, so that's name. Then there are some other things. The only other things that we can edit in here is you have the ability to collect up to 5 physical addresses, 5 email addresses, and 5 phone numbers for one member. So if I'm your member, you could have 5 email addresses, 5 physical addresses, and 5 phone numbers just for me. So if we look at email address, I could select edit settings. Right now we've just got home. We could probably change this to like main. And then we might want to include some other items like a secondary email address. You could have a professional email address. You could have spouse's email address. You could have maybe like an international, I don't know if that's a thing, international email address. And now I can't add any more. So this is my limit. But this allows you to collect this many different email addresses on one member. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So we only need one column right now, but as time goes on, secondary is definitely something I see a lot of. Physical address and phone number are the same thing. So I think I've got fax preferred if you needed to collect additional cell phone, international, whatever the case may be, phone numbers. You could just add additional labels like I did for email. And then lastly, the same thing for physical address. Right now we've just got home, which this should probably be main, but we could do the same thing here. Okay, any other questions on built-in attributes?
No.
Okay.
I think we're good. You can go.
So out of curiosity on the country, is that a drop down for the country, or do they have to type it in themselves?
It is a drop-down.
Okay, great.
All right, so built-in attributes, I mentioned that there are 3 different types of attributes in our system built-in. We've got custom is the second. Custom attributes are just pieces of information that we wouldn't have known you collected on your members. So we've created custom fields to hold that information. As this association continues to grow, you guys will probably need to create new custom attributes to hold those different fields of information. And you can do that. You can always add or edit any attributes that you have. A couple things to note: anytime you create a field, like a custom attribute to hold information in, once you've put information, once you've filled that out on one person. So if you decided to start collecting birth date and you put in my profile, my birth date, and one day you're just like, you know, that's kind of dumb, we don't need that, will you go in there and delete it? You're not going to be able to delete any attribute, whether it's built-in, custom, whatever it may be, if there's information stored in the system in that attribute somewhere. The reason we did that is to prevent you from ever accidentally mass deleting information. So if you've collected the information on individuals in an attribute, you would either have to go through and delete all of that information out of the system, and then you could delete it, or you could just tell us that it needs to be deleted and we could delete it for you.
Okay. Okay. So those are the only 3 the only custom attributes for Roth Williams, correct? The address line,
that is,
website. Okay.
Yeah, that is correct.
And real quick, maybe I kind of lost track of exactly where we were, but do the attributes apply to all of the different member types?
It depends. So if we go back to database and member types.
That's right, we can define attributes. Right. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. Any other questions on these?
No. Jeff?
Okay.
No, I'm good.
All right, awesome. So, built-in attributes, custom attributes. We're going to be using these attributes in conjunction with forms. So we'll be able to use these attributes on our forms to collect information on your members, and it'll actually store the information in your members' profiles. So these are going to be communicating when we use forms. The third type of attribute that we have in our system is called a system attribute. These are fields that the system needs to keep track of your membership period. So these are going to be things like their member type, their expiration date, join date, last renewal date, their member number, their group. All those different fields are going to be items that the system is keeping track of. We can't touch those because the system has to have them. We can view them though, and I'll show you how we can view them in just a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
For the custom attribute, the actions, hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I don't know, I went silent. So where it says actions, there's edit, copy, and delete. What would the copy do? It would just generate the same custom attribute, or?
Yeah, great question. So anytime you need to add a new attribute, a new custom attribute, My recommendation to you would be to just copy an existing. The reason why is because you know how we can apply custom attributes to each member type?
Correct.
In the member type settings. If we use this green button up here, add custom attribute, we would then have to go back and apply that attribute to all of your member types. Whereas if we copy an existing, it'll copy the settings as well. So if the like address line 3, we know that that applies to individual, student, and retired, all 3 of your member types. So if we copied this, maybe we decided, so we're going to copy it, and maybe we could call this instead.
Just go in and edit as needed. Okay.
Birth date. We could change the type that we're collecting. We're going to talk about these on our forms training. So that's a date. We could hit save. That's going to automatically apply to all 3 attributes. So then we don't have to go back to the member type settings and reapply it. Instead, it's already done for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a shortcut. Yeah, it's definitely, if you're adding a custom attribute, this will save you a ton of time just copying it and doing it that way. And then I can delete it because I don't have information collected on this field. Okay. Awesome. Now, attributes, I've mentioned that they're going to be used all over the system. One thing that I'm going to ask for you to do after our training today is going to be to go into this area and look at profile owner attribute security and then just regular attribute security. Profile owner attribute security, when your members log in, they're going to go to their member landing page and they'll have access to their profile. They can update whatever fields of information on themselves that they want to update. Some things you might just want them to be able to see and not edit, like their member type. Some things you may want totally hidden from them. A lot of my associations have internal comments or internal notes as a custom attribute. That would be stuff that you guys would keep in their file, but you would never want them to be able to see. You would want to hide it from them. So up here, you've got profile owner. You're going to go to that. And you would determine, okay, as each of these member types or groups, in this case, because it has to do with permissions, what are they allowed to see, edit, and not see at all? So we've got a legend over here that kind of helps you. And I would just recommend going through each item and saying, okay, first name, yeah, they can see that. Last name, yeah, they can see that. So on and so forth. These items down here. Group is confusing because I had to take like 15 minutes just to explain what it meant to you. So imagine having to explain what group means to a member. It would be impossible. So instead, my recommendation to you would be just to hide it. They don't need to know that it exists. They don't need to know about permissions. They just need to have access to what they have access to. So I would recommend hiding it. Last modified date, I would recommend hiding it. If you guys go in and update somebody's profile, it never fails. If you go in tomorrow and update somebody's profile, and then they get the welcome email, and they go in here, and maybe in a couple days after that, and somebody's like, "Oh my gosh, it says I've updated my profile 3 days ago, but I wasn't logged in here. Somebody must have hacked the system. Somebody hacked the system and updated my profile." This happens all the time, and you're like, "No, it was me. I was in your profile. I made the update," but they're just on edge. There's always those people. So I would recommend hiding that from them. The rest of these are probably fine. Member number, if you don't want them to know their member number, you could hide it. But member status and member type, they need to be able to see. Join date, last renewal date, things like that are fine.
When you click on it, sorry to interrupt, but when you click on it, does it auto save or do you?
It automatically saves in this area.
Yeah.
There's no save button. It'll just save for us. Yes. Any other questions?
No.
Cool. The reason these are red X's is because I just added them. Anytime you add a new attribute, it is by default so that nobody can see it. So you would always need to come back in here and say, yeah, they can see their prefixes, and you might want to make it so that they can see these.
Okay.
So I'll do that.
So, for something like this, do we want them to be able to edit their own information? Because right now they can just look at it, right?
Right. So that's something that would be great for you guys to go in after our training today, and maybe you guys can have a conversation, or Sadida can look at this and decide what she, you know, if you want them to be able to edit, you might want them to be able to edit their first name, middle name, last name, and suffix and prefix, since they're all kind of combined into one right now. You might want to make it so that they can edit these things. Now, prospects are not going to have access to their profile. The only thing that this prospect column is good for, and so this is really a great tip as well, this also has to do with data merge material. So if you guys send an email and you say, dear blank, dear data merge first name, if you have it so that they are not able to see their first name in their profile, it's going to say dear blank, right? Because if they can't see that field, it can't data merge on the email. So traditionally, I just make prospects so that they can see anything. That way you never have to run into something not coming over in a data merge field in an email.
Okay.
They're not going to have a profile, though. You'll be able to see their profile, but that's it. Okay. Now there's a part 2 on this, and that's called attribute security. This has to do with what your members can see in each other's profiles. So it looks the same, but there's this added drop down over here. So you would ask yourself, okay, if I'm an admin, what can I do and see to prospect profiles, admin profiles, individual profiles? As an admin, technically, you guys can do whatever you want to do. If it was the individual member type. Do what?
So I'm sorry, as super admins, we can do whatever we want, right?
Yeah, well, you guys are, yeah, yes.
Is this admin the ASA admin, or no?
It's not, no. So this would be like, the ASA admin, it doesn't matter what you have in here. You guys can do whatever you want to do and see whatever you want to see no matter what. But if you add, for example, board members as admin, right, you could limit what they can edit.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
And then individual, what should individuals be able to see in admin profiles, other individual member profiles, retired member profiles, student member profiles. You guys would kind of want to determine if there's anything you'd want to limit them to be able to see. Usually at minimum, you don't really want them to be able to see their system attributes. Is this making sense?
Yeah, now this is member to member, right?
Yes.
Okay, what if, is there a section that maybe we haven't gotten to about like the public facing directory?
I will show you.
Oh, okay, great.
This is if I'm an individual member type, what can I see about each of these other member types, right? And I'm just editing this for you guys so that you can kind of have something to go off of, and it might spark some reminders from our training today. So if it was public, we would use our drop down and go to the public.
There we go. Right.
Same place. And then you can limit what they'd be able to see. So you guys, so one thing that I really want you guys to do after this training is going to be to come in here and look at profile owner attribute security and then just attribute security and make sure that's 100% ready to go for launch.
Okay, sounds good. Yes, I can.
And I'll send it in a follow-up email to you guys as well. Before I keep going, what questions do you have so far?
Nothing right now.
Yeah, I mean, so every single time, I guess the only thing I'm thinking about is every single time you make a new custom attribute or you add one, it defaults on the security side. It defaults to hidden. Is that correct? It hides
Correct.
everything, or does it allow? Okay, so all of them. Okay, so you have to go in there and then make the appropriate security changes.
Yes,
Makes sense.
exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think ideally we have it set up once, and unless the board comes back to us and go, oh, we really want to ask this question, we really want this information, that's really the only time that we would go back in, is if we're given direction on a specific
Okay.
thing that they want, but that rarely happens. And yeah, so I think once we set it up, hopefully we won't be going back in multiple.
Often.
Yeah. Very
Okay.
often. Okay.
Okay, Adrian.
And that's exactly right. Ideally, you would never have to come in here again because it's such a tedious process. Now, unless you added a new custom attribute or unless you added a new member type, right? Then you'd have to come in here and do it as well. But otherwise, yep. Okay. All right. So there's a couple more things that I want to talk about in regards to the database before we move away from this part of the training today. Let's talk about how you're going to search your members and then the organization of their profiles. So you saw me earlier use the search bar up here in the top right-hand corner. The second that you type in 3 letters, it's going to do a search on those 3 letters for first names, last names, organizations, or emails. So not only is it going to find, in this example, GON in the name, but also the email. Now, once you find the profile that you're looking for, I want to look at an individual's profile so I can get to those individuals by actually just clicking on this number 329. This is going to give me a list of all the individual member types that you have in the database. And so I'm going to go ahead and select one of these individual member types. So this is an example of one of your members' profiles. These profiles are organized in a really, to me, easy to understand way. So up here in the top left-hand corner, these are all those built-in attributes that we've talked about. Over here on the right-hand corner, these are all the system attributes that we talked about. There's the member type, individual. Here's the group. They're in one group, so if we edit this group, we'll see they're in the individual group as well. If we wanted to add them to the board group, we would just check board. And that would enhance their permissions. Whatever highest level of permissions that are assigned to them that they have will be what applies to them. So what that means is that if I'm in the individual group and I'm not allowed to have access to the admin side, but if I'm in the board group and I do have access to the admin side, I'll be able to get to the admin side. So built-in attributes, system attributes. Down below, we have a summary of all the built-in attributes once again, as well as custom attributes.
Now, this is how the page looks like from our end, correct?
That's right.
Okay, and then is it similar to how the public views it or how the individuals view it?
Let me see if I can get there quickly. So this is the member landing page. We're going to talk more about this on the social community training, which we have tomorrow, I believe. They could go to the My Profile tab. And this is along the lines of what they would see.
Okay.
Uh-oh, did you guys go away again?
Oh, no, we're here.
Oh, okay. Good. I wonder if that was I don't know what that was. So this is, and then they could select edit. Makes sense?
Mhm. So any edits they make on this page here, it makes the appropriate changes on member links, clicks, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Now, in your members' profiles, there's a couple of other things that you can view as well. We have a new notes area that you guys can add notes to, something I want to go ahead and mention to this, because it would have tricked me if I hadn't known. Jeff, this is really important for you to know. This is not able to be exported. So if you guys ever wanted to leave MemberClicks and you had 5 years worth of notes that you kept in here, you wouldn't be able to export it out in like an Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, we would or would not?
No.
Would not. So right, so that's why I'm still kind of I mean, this might be great, like, if you guys need to make notes to each other, like, Renato called yesterday to confirm payment. Did Jeff receive payment or something like that? But if it's like, I don't know, if it's something that you would need to know forever, ever, and ever, like historical data, I would probably recommend creating a custom attribute to hold that in, because all custom attributes are exportable. This particular notes field is not, though. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When you enter something, does it get time stamped when you hit submit?
It does.
Okay.
And you
This
can
is what it'll look like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Edit and delete.
You'll also be able to view any invoices created for this individual in this particular profile. So open, paid, partially paid, voided invoices you'll be able to view from their profile. Any form submissions, what have they registered for? Committees and E-lists have to do the social community items. We'll come back to these tomorrow. Message history is going to hold any email you've ever sent them from MemberClicks. And then contact preferences, they'll be able to determine contact preferences in their profile. And so this will allow you guys to glance at those contact preferences that they've set up. Any questions on the members' profiles?
No.
Okay. So the next thing that we can go.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Do you ever add photos? Is that like professional photos or something?
We haven't to this point because we haven't had the ability, but we want to.
Okay, so that's okay. Is that an option right now or no?
Yeah, they can now.
Okay.
They'll be able to do that from their profile. Sometimes from time to time associations will add photos for them, but I would probably just allow them to do that themselves, just because it's going to be really time consuming for you guys, and then they may not be happy with the photo you chose, or it may be an outdated photo, or, you know, but they'll be able to add those photos from their personal profile.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to the profile list now, just by selecting profile list, this big green button. Now this is going to take you to an area where you're going to see all of your members in the database: prospects, individual, retired, admin, students, everybody. So this is a little bit difficult to navigate. We do have an advanced search field up here in the top left-hand corner. And this allows you to search by any attribute in the system, whether those are built-in attributes, custom attributes, system attributes. So if you wanted to see whose expiration date is in the last 90 days, last 7 days, next 7 days, these are all fields that you can search by. You can also add criteria. So you could say, who is expiring in the next 90 days that is an individual member type. You would want to match any criteria, match all criteria, meaning they have to be an individual member type and expiring in the last 90 days, and you would hit search, and you would be able to see exactly who those people are. So you can get really creative and do a lot of things with this. You can also search by form submissions. Who completed a form submission of your forms? Who did not complete a form submission of? These are helpful because you can send targeted emails from these lists. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. So you might want to send a follow-up email to individuals that register for your conference and say, hey, thanks so much for coming to our conference. Please take a quick survey to let us know how we did. And you could create a survey using our forms tool. What did you think of the speaker? What did you think of the organization? What did you think of the food? Things like that. And then you would be sending it just to those individuals that filled out the conference registration form, so that you don't have people trying to take it that weren't there. Lastly, we do have some event statuses. We'll talk more about this when we get to forms as well, but basically you can apply event statuses, whether they came, no-showed, did not register, registered for these different events. You'll be able to select that and search by that information as well. And then lastly, at the bottom, you can search by different statuses. By default, the system will always search by active and graced members. It will not, by default, include lapsed members. If you want lapsed members to be included in your search results, you'll always have to check them at the bottom.
Okay.
Now, if you have ever, if you delete members from MemberClicks, they are not going to go away forever. Technically, they are being archived in our system. So what that means is that you'll always be able to search by deleted profiles, and you can restore them if you needed to.
Okay.
Now, if you find yourself searching by the same criteria all the time, instead of having to come in here and add it all the time, you could just save the criteria using this button down here in the bottom left, and you would name it. I'm just going to name this test. You could save the criteria. That way, next time, if you're coming back into the profile list, you can click profile list, and now you've got this drop down, manage save searches, and you can just click on what you saved. So that'll save you some time. Now, when you find the individuals that you have searched for, and you want to take some type of action to them, there's an actions drop down over here in the right-hand corner. From here, you can do a lot of things. So you can contact them. That's going to pull them into the contact center. So you can send those targeted emails. You can export them. So you can export information into Excel spreadsheets. You can create ad hoc invoices en masse. These are miscellaneous invoices. Change your member statuses, change their member type. So if you have a bunch of people that expired 2 years ago, you could en masse change them all from the member type to prospect to make more room for more custom profiles. Add to groups, remove to groups. Remember that has to do with permissions. Delete profiles, and en masse undelete profiles.
Okay.
How are you feeling?
Very good, actually. Very good. I'm still with you.
Awesome. I know this is a ton of information.
Yeah.
And Jeff, you'll have to excuse me. I was thinking we would be able to fly through this a bit faster, but there are some terms that we're having to go back and kind of talk more in depth about, and like some overall themes. But I think going through those items in detail will help build the platform for the rest of the stuff that we're going to be going through, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I appreciate the comprehensive approach, so please continue.
Awesome. Now, if you ever needed to come in here and add somebody manually, so if you needed to add a manual profile, you can always do that from the profile list. There's this add an individual button. You would just click on that. You would just choose what member type they belong to, their username, which I typically would use their email address, their name, their email. You would hit save. and that would take you into their profile where you could finish filling out their information. Typically, so when we go through forms, you'll have the ability to take forms on behalf of people. So what that means is, especially since it sounds like a lot of the members with Roth Williams may not be English speaking, or it may not be their first language, it might be helpful if they might call you and say, can you take the membership application for me? Or maybe they weren't able to navigate to it or something. You'll be able to assume the profile and take the application for them. It's really easy. And that's going to basically create their profile and an open invoice for them in one swoop for them to pay for their dues. But if it's somebody that just was already supposed to be in here, or Jeff says just throw them in the system, they don't need an invoice, whatever it may be, you would just add an individual manually this way. So if you don't need an invoice associated with them joining the association, you would just manually add. If you do need an invoice, you would want to take the membership application on their behalf.
Okay. Does that happen often, Jeff, that you take someone else?
It's usually done sometimes it's done by email.
Okay.
But it does happen every once in a while, but not very often.
Okay. Now, I still kind of want to go through the financial piece of this, but that means we're probably not going to get to content today. Jeff, I'm going to leave this up to you. Would you rather me go through content or the financial piece today?
At this point, I think I'd rather you go through content.
Awesome.
I think that's the more important piece right now.
Okay. Anybody need a couple minutes break, or are you guys still feeling good to go?
I'm good to go. If you are good to go, we'll push through.
Let's do it. Cool. So content, you guys have the ability to change menu structure. So there's going to be a couple of additional new terms that we're going to go through. This would be what we call the main menu. Any item that we click on in the main menu would be called an article. So page of content, we refer to it as an article. You have the ability to change these articles, which I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. This is your slideshow. You can change these slideshow images. Now, this is your home page. And these different sections that you see are what we call widgets. Widgets are what allows the website to be responsive. So if somebody looks at your website on a cell phone, even these over here on the right-hand corner, these are all going to stack. So notice how when I do that, everything just stacked on top of each other. The main menu went away into this menu up here in the top right. This is going to allow the site to be responsive so that your members have the ability to have full use of any of these items if they're on a tablet or any other type of device. So I'm going to teach you how to update these widgets. I want you to update this homepage main, homepage left, and homepage right, and this announcements as homework items. I'm going to, of course, teach you how to do it in a minute, but I just wanted to go ahead and point out, I would like for you guys to be able to at least have something in here so that I know that your hands were in here working in it. So let's go ahead and dive into what this is going to look like for you guys on the back end.
Okay.
At this point, we're going to be focused entirely under the website tab. The first thing that I want to talk to you a little bit about is your media manager. So when you're creating an article or a page of content in the site, you'll never be able to just copy and paste an image into the content, into the article. You'll never be able to just copy and paste a link to a document or to an external link into an article. You'll always need to save the document or image in your media manager. So the media manager is what we would call our in-house file store. This media manager is already broken up into different folders for you. So we've got a documents folder, an images folder. Anything that's in your site that we brought over from the existing site is going to already be in here for you.
Everything was just recently brought over. So that's why we're still working on content.
Okay.
So if we wanted to add something to this documents folder, I can select upload. I would choose the item that I would want to bring over. So I'm going to bring over your Go Live checklist. This is something we're going to go through later on together. We would select open, and that's going to add it to this particular folder. If we no longer wanted it, we could just select the X. Same thing with images. All we would need to do is select upload, and we would add an image just as I showed you. You guys can add additional folders for organization. So you might want a sponsor logos folder. You could create that folder. And now you've got a little bit more organization over here. So basically, before we can add an image or a document into an article, we always have to save it in the Media Manager first. Does this make sense?
Yes, yeah.
Awesome.
And
okay.
then the slideshow images, are those just images that are going to be presented as slideshow on the website?
Yeah, so it's not actually pulling from this area, it's pulling from a widget, which I'll show you here in just a minute. But it's nice to put your slideshow images in their own folder. The reason why is all the slideshow images have to be the same size, always. So it's good to make sure that you've got the right sized image that you're using, and you'll know exactly where to pull it from because it'll be in your slideshow images folder. Your image, so if you ever forget what size these need to be, if you select the image, you can right click on it and hit inspect. This is not like a MemberClicks thing, this is like a computer thing. And it'll show you, this is I didn't know how else to say that. There's different tips and tricks that I've had to learn that I didn't know when I used to use computers in here, so I point some stuff out. But this shows you that the image is 980 by 350. So if you ever forget when you're resizing an image for the slideshow, you can always just inspect the image and it'll show you, okay, it's 980 by, these need to be 980 by 350.
Okay. And then,
so I could do.
This is a question for Jeff, but where do these images usually come from? Are they chosen by the board or?
So these images actually came from stock gallery from MemberClicks.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so I can show you the old Roth Williams site, which is completely different than this site.
Okay.
So there is no, we've done it this way before because this is all brand new for us. Yeah. So if we find another image that we really, really like, we either have to get it to that size to put on the, there's the old one. Yeah.
And just to point out, if you guys bring on more accounts or if you need more pictures, every time you guys have an account with MemberClicks or an association with MemberClicks, part of your package is we'll purchase up to 5 Shutterstock images for you. So you can send, yeah, so it's on Shutterstock. So if you wanted more images, even if it was a couple weeks from now or a couple months from now, you could always say, hey, will you please buy this Shutterstock image for us? You could just send me the link to it and we would purchase it for you, and then you could resize it and add it to your site. So you get up to 5.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Any other questions on this?
No.
Awesome. So the next thing I want to jump to is our widgets. So I'm going to website widgets. I love widgets because to me they're just really easy to navigate. I'm going to go through what each of these are. Slider images. This is where it's pulling your slideshow images from.
Okay.
So if you wanted to add a new slideshow image, you always have to make sure that the cursor is backed up directly behind the last image. So notice my cursor is flashing and touching the last image. We don't want to space down. We don't want to add or enter down. We don't want to add spaces. We're leaving our cursor right back to the last image. Now, at this point, we've already saved our resized image in our Media Manager, right? So to bring in the image, we would come to the bottom of our editor. We call this our WYSIWYG editor. We're going to select Image. this is going to bring up a mini media manager. So we can access our files here. There's those slideshow images. Grab the slideshow image we want to add and insert the image. So this is tough because it's the same one. And this is going to add this image to our slideshow. So once again, the slideshow images always have to be the same size. They all have to be the same size. And you'll want to add it right back to the last image. Okay. Any questions on that?
Do you think the tools above are ever going to be necessary? If you go back to if you go into slider images, those tools like the format and whatnot, is that just?
So our editor looks the same no matter where you're looking at it. So what that means is when we create a new page of content, when we create a new article, this is going to be the same editor. And at that time, you will need to use these, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. You will not need to use them in the slideshow image area. Your next widgets are homepage main, homepage left, and homepage right. So I would really love for you to go ahead and update these. Once again, this is homepage main. This is homepage left. Over here is homepage right.
Okay.
So all you would want to do is say, okay, I want to update homepage main. We're going to select it, and then you would just start typing in here as if you were working in a Word document. And then, like I said, I'm going to teach you how to use these tools in just a second. So like this up here is heading 1. And then this regular text down here is just the paragraph. So there's different things I'll show you in just a moment that you can use in these editors. And I'll give you some tips and tricks for this as well. But
and like you mentioned
really,
earlier, I'm sorry, even for the content that's in here, you have to save it to the media manager. You cannot paste any text here.
Text you can. Text is fine. It's just if you were inserting an image or creating a link to a document. Now, if you so I'm not technically supposed to tell you that you can copy and paste text into our editor. And the reason why is because all text, no matter where it's coming from, has HTML behind it. Sometimes you may take text from one editor or from like your existing site, and you may paste it into our editor. And it might have looked fine and dandy in your editor, but when you paste it in ours, it's going to read the HTML a little bit differently. If that HTML was messy, it might have had some hidden formatting. It might have had some other weird stuff in there. When you paste it in our editor, it's usually going to show any messy HTML. And the way that it'll do that is it'll just get really quirky. So you may talk to me and you may go, Adrienne, the editor is driving me crazy. It's acting so quirky and weird. What is going on? And I'm probably going to say, did you copy and paste it? And you're going to say yes. And I'm going to say, I know, most people do. And I've got some ways. Okay, and with me saying all this, 100% of my associations copy and paste text into these editors. Nobody's going to sit here and type out 3 paragraphs that they could just copy and paste, right? So instead, I've learned ways to get around those quirks versus eliminating those quirks, which is probably not the best. It's not the best practice. But I understand that everybody does it. So a common thing that you'll see is, and this shouldn't do it because this should be clean. Whoops. If you want to space down, this is doing a great job. There's a single space because this is clean HTML. If you have messy HTML, it's going to give you a double space every time. And you're going to be like, I only want a single space. Why is it doing this? And to get around that particular problem, you would just hold the shift button down and hit enter. And that'll create a single space. A lot of the stuff you're not going to need until you come upon it. Another way to eliminate some of those quirks, either if you're using a Mac or a PC, you would have something on your computer called Text Edit or Notepad. I like to use something called Sublime. It's this gray button with the with the orange S on top of it. Basically, what this allows me to do is I would first copy and paste my text in here. It's going to strip it of the formatting. Then I would copy and paste it into the editor.
Yeah, we work with PCs, so it would be Notepad. I was familiar that Notepad does that. I've actually used it before to remove formats.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you can continue to use it that way. But if you ever are having quirks, just let me know, and I usually can find some solutions for you. Or usually I've got some up my sleeve.
Beautiful. Cool. Thank you.
All right, let's keep rocking and rolling. We've got homepage main, homepage left, homepage right. I already pointed those out. It's over here, homepage left. Over here is homepage right. Same thing. You would just add text into the editor, and it's going to add it in those areas. Member landing my name is. When your members log into the member landing page, this is the page that they're greeted with. You have the ability to update what information they're greeted with. So this is data merge material. If you don't want their contact name to populate in, maybe you want their first name to populate in, you would go to the merge data tool at the bottom of the editor, and you can merge in any fields, even custom attributes. Usually, though, this is fine as is.
Okay.
Footer info. If you wanted to update this, it's going to be at the bottom of the website.
Okay.
I mentioned that I want you to update the announcements widget. This populates in here. And then lastly, custom login page content lower half, custom login page content top half. So when your members come to your site, and they want to log in, they're going to click this member login button up here. And it brings them to the login page. That custom page content top half and lower half allows you to either add text above or below this area. I would say 9 times out of 10, my associations leave this alone. I have seen associations add some text along the lines of not a member, ? Join today and become a Roth Williams individual member or Roth Williams member. And then they'll have a link to the membership application. But otherwise, it's kind of fine if you left it alone. And those are all of the widgets. Any questions on any of these?
No. Pretty clear.
Awesome. All right. The last thing that we need to go through is how to create an article, page of content, and then link that article to a menu item. So to do that, I need to go to Website and Articles. Now this is going to list all of the articles already created in the system. If you wanted to make edits to any of your articles, so like the About Us, I could search the articles in here. There's About, and I may not like that these are double spaced. So we could take out some of this double spacing in here. Oops. And then we could save this. Well, yeah. So we can make edits to it, and then I would just hit save. So we can make edits to our articles, and that's going to reflect on any of the articles that we see here on the front end.
Okay.
Let's say we wanted to create a new article. So Jeff may say to you, and just to give you another example, Jeff may say to you, okay, I really don't like our goal-directed orthodontics. I don't like how this page looks. Can you just come in here and clean this up a little bit? Or could you add some more visuals? Could you center the visuals? You would just find that article in the article manager, and then you'd be able to make edits in that editor. If you wanted to create a new article, you've got some different options up here in the top right-hand corner, some different icons that you can use. To create a new article, we would use the plus sign. We're creating something new. We're adding an article. Other common items that you'll use, if you tag a specific article, you may want to move it to the trash. If you accidentally moved it to the trash, you could always view the trash and restore it. You could also, while you're working on an article, unpublish it. I just double-clicked on that green published bar. Once it's ready to be published again and you're done working on it, I could double-click on that red unpublished.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and create a new article by selecting New. All we need to do is add a title. So this is just going to help us understand what this is being used for. Whenever we create a title, an alias is going to auto-populate. That alias creates the URL for the specific article. Are you still there?
Yes.
That is so weird. I don't know what keeps going on and off. So if I went to row.memberclicks.net/members-only, it would bring me to this specific article.
Yeah.
So a lot of these items that you see up here are very similar to if you've worked in a Word document. So I don't want to spend time pointing out those. I do want to spend some time pointing out differences. So these formatted fonts that we have, these are really awesome for a couple of reasons. One, consistency throughout the site. If every article has the same heading 1 for every page, it's going to look very consistent throughout the entire site. Number 2, if you guys go through a rebranding or if you want to freshen your site, you may want to use some new colors. You could send those colors to us. We're going to apply them for you. And wherever you've used any of these formatted fonts, they're going to automatically update. So if you don't want to use the slate blue color anymore, instead you want to use a navy blue, you could let us know. We're going to update that, and anywhere you've used heading 1, it's going to automatically turn navy blue. So you don't have to go through every single article on your site and make those updates for every single article.
Okay, great.
Some other differences, how we insert an image. Just like we inserted an image when we were looking at the slideshow, the image slider widget. We're placing our cursor where we want the image to populate. We're coming to the bottom of our article, choosing image. This is bringing up that mini media manager. We're selecting the file we want to pull the image from, selecting the image, and inserting. Now, we may think that this image is too big. We may not like the relationship between the image and the text. We may want to add a border to the image. To make any edits to the appearance of the image, we're selecting or clicking on the image, coming to the top of the editor, and there's already a little tree icon that's highlighted up here for us. If we click on that tree icon, we can go to the Appearance tab, and this lets us make some changes. Now, if you forget what I'm going over with you, it's okay, because there's a little example over here that's showing you exactly what we're doing. So I can change the alignment. That has to do with how the text is aligning with the image. Set dimensions. So this is measured in pixels. We always want to constrain proportions so that the second dimension populates for us. We want to add vertical space or horizontal space. That has to do with the space between the text and the image. Once again, measured in pixels. So notice now we've got some space.
Yeah.
The bottom, same thing for horizontal. And then a border just adds a really simple, basic black border to our image.
Okay.
And we can update. So now we've pushed our image to the left. We've added that border. There's the space cushion between the text and the image. And the text starts at the top of the image and will work its way down below the image. Any questions on how I did that?
When you save, so when you're finished editing the article, does it immediately change on the actual website?
Correct.
Is it immediately reflected there? Okay. So
yes.
If I was to do this and I was to save it, I can go to the website and check if everything looks the way we'd like it to look?
Exactly.
Okay.
You might have to hit refresh.
Refresh,
Browser.
yeah.
Or sometimes you may have to clear your cache. or browsing history, because sometimes what will happen is it'll remember what the site looked like before you made the changes. If you've already viewed that page of the site earlier that day. So if you clear the history, it's forcing the system to reread that page, so it'll reflect any edits. Sometimes you'll have to do that.
Okay, good to know.
All right, something else that's a little bit unique to MemberClicks is adding external and internal links. To add an external link, you would just highlight the text you're wanting to link up, and you're going to use the link at the top of the page. And you would just add in your link URL. So if I wanted to link to your old site for some reason, we would just add that link in, and at that point, we're just going to insert.
Okay.
Notice this is now hyperlinked. Internal links a little bit different. Once again, we're highlighting the text we want to link up, but this time we're coming to the bottom of our editor, choosing site links, and we can link to anything already inside of MemberClicks. Any other articles, any community features, any other menu items, any forms that we've created, any files. So earlier, I added that Go Live checklist file to the Docs folder in the Media Manager. I can add it here and insert it as a link. Now, there's only a couple other things that I really want to point out to you. A lot of these items you're really not going to need to use, and I don't want to confuse you with information that's not necessary. There is an undo button. Undo to me is really helpful. Our spell check, the only way to make our spell check work is you first have to highlight the text you want to apply spell check to, and then hit spell check. Then it'll add the spell check to that text. If you know HTML, we do have an HTML editor that you can use. The only other thing you really might use, there's a horizontal line that you can add to the page to act as a separator.
Okay, and so is there a word limit?
There is not.
Oh, okay.
A lot of what you see in here has to do with tables, and I would not recommend using tables in any of our articles on the website because tables are typically not responsive. So if you've added a table to your site and everything is shiny and new and beautiful and easy to use, and then all of a sudden they get to an article and it's got a table, they're having to do all this wacky scrolling stuff, it just doesn't feel consistent with the feel of the site, if that makes sense. So I would suggest not using tables.
Okay.
Now, when you're done with your article, there's that group access. So this gets to determine who gets to view this article. If you still are trying to make edits and you want to know how it seems, how it looks, you may only want admin to view it. You may not want anybody else to be able to see it yet. Once you're ready to release it, you can allow anybody access to it. Now, this was members only, so I would uncheck public and prospect.
Okay.
Which means anybody can see it except for the public or prospects. And when we're done, I'm going to hit save.
What is the difference between save and apply?
Great question. So if I hit save, it's taking me back to my article manager. If I hit apply, it's still applying the changes on the front end, but it's keeping me on this tab. So this is really helpful if we were like going between, okay, looking at it on the front end, okay, I need to make some more edits. You could just go back to the tab you were on and not have to go back into the article every single time.
Okay, so apply is saving it, but it's keeping you on the same page.
Yep, that's the only difference. Okay. All right, that is kind of everything with our articles. Any questions on how I created this article? Okay. All right. At this point, we've created the article on the back end, but we have not linked it up anywhere on the front end. So that means that we would need to go to website and menu items, and this is going to allow us to link it up to one of our menu items. We have 4 different menu items: main menu, so let me point these out: main menu, social network menu, member menu, quick links menu. We've got our main menu. quick links menu. Social network menu is going to be this little Facebook icon. You could add additional social media icons as you gain social media. And then the member menu is right underneath that, that name tag that your members greeted with on the member landing page. So we can make edits to any of those menu items.
Okay.
For our example, I'm gonna add this, I'm gonna add it as a quick link because we have space for it. So I'm just choosing quick links. They all act the same way though. So I could add a menu item to any of these. This is gonna show me what we have already here for our quick links. So it's giving me an outline of the existing menu structure. What I wanna do right now is I'm creating a new menu item. So I'm selecting new, just like what we did when we created the new article. It's asking me, what are you linking to? What we just created and what you'll be using most commonly is the single article. That's what we just created. You could link directly to, an external link. You could link directly to forms. So you might want to have a main menu option that says join today. When they click on it, it goes directly to the membership application. That's something that you could create. I'm going to go ahead and select single article. Now I have to name what I want this to be called, what I want the button to be called when I click on it. I usually keep it consistent with what I called the article because that makes sense to me. So I'm calling my title of this button that I'm about to see, it's called Members Only. The alias populates. I can determine if I want to make a submenu. So in the main menu, if I wanted to create a submenu, I would highlight an existing main menu option. Do I want it published? I want it to open up in the same window. Who do I want to be able to see this? And when I actually click on the button, what article is going to pop up? This is where I'm going to select what article pops up when I click on the menu item.
Okay.
So I'm choosing Members Only. And now I'm going to save. So when I'm on your site, after we've refreshed, we've got our fourth tab down here, Members Only. I can click on it, and it's going to, oh, and I made it for Members Only. Hold on. I'm not logged in, I guess. What? There we go. And here's that little example article that I created. I know I went through that process kind of fast, and I have it recorded that I'll send to you. Did that make sense, though?
Absolutely, it did. Yeah, I've been taking notes, so we're good.
Awesome, awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, I'll definitely revisit the recording if there's something that I needed to go over again. Yeah, no, you're doing great.
Now, I am not going to saturate your brain anymore. I'm going to stop here today. We've made it through 2 full trainings. There's just a couple of things that we'll want to go through probably tomorrow or maybe a little bit later, but this is a lot of information. And so the only things that I'd like for you to try to do before our call tomorrow, if Jeff thinks it's a good idea, would be for you to update this homepage main widget, homepage left, homepage right widget, and the announcements widget.
Got that down as an action item. So.
Perfect. And then I'd like for you to revisit attribute security and profile owner attribute security.
All right, noted. We will do.
Awesome. And that is it. So I'll send you a follow-up email. Anything I can answer for you before we end our call today?
No, I think that is all. Thank you for being so great.
Of course.
No, I feel good. I feel good about it. You know, it'll take some practice, but I have a much clearer, more conceptualized idea of how member clicks work.
Awesome. And when we'll go through forums and social community tomorrow, and I think then things will start to kind of come together a little bit more. Jeff, anything that I can answer for you before I let you guys go today?
No, thanks for taking the time. I know it's a long training, but I really appreciate it.
You guys were awesome. Thanks for hanging in there. Well, I will talk to y'all tomorrow. Let me know if you have any questions between now and then.
Okay, sounds good. Have a good day.
Thanks,
All
y'all
right,
too. Bye.
Bye.